I'm not even sure how to start this. I've never really posted on here before, not like this. But I need to get this story out, part therapy, part warning, and part, well, I guess I want to know if anyone else has gone through something this insane. It started like a normal Wednesday. I was late for work, spilled coffee on my shirt, the usual cosmic slap in the face. I was driving my old Honda Civic, the one my ex used to call the sad mobile because it always looked like it was about to give up on life. I had my GPS on Google Maps, nothing fancy, but it had been acting weird lately, rerouting me down alleys and dead ends like it was drunk or something. That day, though, it told me to take a detour through a part of town I usually avoid. But I listened. I always listen to the GPS. Big mistake. A few minutes later, I was in an intersection I didn't recognize, and boom, out of nowhere, this massive black SUV ran the light and T-boned me on the driver's side. My car spun like a top. Airbags exploded. I thought I'd died. But the weirdest part? When the SUV driver got out and came running over, it was my ex. Yeah. Horror. The same woman who ghosted me 6 months ago after 3 years together. And she wasn't alone. She had a kid with her. A little girl who looked. Well, I'll save that for part 2. Let me know if you want me to keep going. This rabbit hole goes deep. So yeah, my ex gets out of the SUV, looking like she'd seen a ghost, which was rich, considering she was the one who vanished. No breakup text, no warning, just poof. Gone. She stares at me through the cracked windshield, like she couldn't believe I was real. I was still halfway in shock, seatbelt digging into my ribs, trying to figure out if this was some hallucination from the head trauma. But no, this was real. And then the back door of her SUV opens, and a little girl, maybe 5, 6 years old, steps out, clutching a plush bunny and looking terrified. I know it sounds crazy, but the moment I looked at her, I felt it in my stomach. Like this slow, cold dread climbing up my spine. She looked like me. Not just in a maybe she has his eyes kind of way. I mean carbon copy. Same dimples. Same awkward eyebrows. Same slightly too big ears I used to get teased about. And my ex? She just stands there, frozen. Doesn't say a word. Doesn't ask if I'm okay. Doesn't explain. Nothing. I finally unbuckle myself and stumble out of the car, and all I can say is, "Whose kid is that?" She goes pale. Like, ghost white. And then, she says, "She's yours." Y'all. I nearly passed out again right there on the pavement. I just stood there, blinking at her like she'd spoken another language. "She's what?" I asked, thinking maybe I'd misheard through the ringing in my ears. "She's yours," she repeated. We need to talk, but not here." Not here? I'd just been in a full-on car crash, there was a child involved, and now she's acting like this is a coffee shop reunion? I was still rattled, and everything hurt, my ribs, my neck, my brain. But something sharper than the pain was cutting through me, this growing sense that something was seriously wrong, and not just physically. I asked her the first question that popped into my head. How old is she? 5. 5 years old. Which means she would have gotten pregnant while we were together. Way before the ghosting. My hands started shaking. You never told me. You just left. She looked like she wanted to cry. It wasn't safe. I had to protect her. From what? Me? Before I could say another word, she glanced over her shoulder, like she was expecting someone. Or running from someone. And that's when I noticed something strange. Her SUV didn't have plates. None. Not even temporary tags. And my car? The GPS was still on, quietly rerouting me to a safer route. That's when the first real shiver of fear hit. Something about all of this felt staged. I know how that sounds. I do. But standing there, bruised and bloodied on the side of the road, staring at my ex, this mystery kid, and her tagless SUV, it hit me like a punch in the gut. This wasn't just some freak accident. This was a setup. The way the GPS rerouted me into that exact intersection. The way she was there. Waiting. The kid. The missing plates. I couldn't prove it, not yet, but I felt it. Something had been engineered here. I'm calling the cops, I said, reaching into my jacket for my phone. She grabbed my wrist fast, too fast. Please don't, she whispered. You don't understand what's going on. If they show up, everything gets worse. Worse than this? I'd just been T-boned and time-traveled into fatherhood. I yanked my arm free. You need to explain. Now. She looked down at the little girl, who was staring up at me like she didn't know if I was her hero or a total stranger. Maybe both. And then my ex said something that turned my blood ice cold. She's not just your daughter. She was created. I swear my heart stopped for a second. Created? What does that even mean? She hesitated, looked me dead in the eye, and said. She was part of a program. And so were you. I laughed. Out loud. It was sharp, dry, and way too loud for how broken my ribs felt. A program? Are you hearing yourself right now? She didn't flinch. She just nodded like we were talking about the weather. Not everyone who signs up knows they've signed up, she said. You didn't. I did. My throat went dry. What the hell are you talking about? She crouched next to the little girl, smoothed her hair back, kissed the top of her head. Then she said, Project Aurora. Artificial uterine reproductive optimization and relational assignment. That's what they called it. I took a step back. My body didn't want to move, but I couldn't help it. My instincts were screaming. This was insane. Sci-fi movie level insane. Except it was happening in front of me. With my ex. And a child who had my face. I didn't make her? I asked, whispering like saying it too loud would break reality. You did. Biologically. But not the way you think. They took your DNA from the wellness clinic. Remember when I convinced you to do that ancestry thing? I did. She bought it for my birthday. I thought it was sweet. I signed the consent forms, she said, eyes full of guilt. You didn't read the fine print. But I did. I knew what they were doing. I stared at her, trying to find the person I used to know behind the stranger standing in front of me. Why? I choked out. Why would you do this to me? Her answer? They said I could design the perfect family. They said it would protect us from the world. And that's when I realized. She wasn't just trying to hide the truth. She believed it. So I'm standing there, heart jackhammering, ribs screaming, trying to wrap my head around the idea that this 5-year-old girl who looks exactly like me at that age wasn't born in the usual way. She was engineered. She's not just your daughter, my ex repeated. She's an adaptive intelligence prototype. Her body's real. Her brain is different. I blinked. Different how? She learns in real time. Faster than anything we've seen. She was part of a closed-loop environment until she started asking about you. I looked down at her. The girl didn't say a word, just hugged her bunny tighter and watched me. Like she was analyzing me. Like she already knew everything. She's been watching you, my ex whispered. What do you mean watching me? Socials. Emails. Security cams. She found you 6 months ago. That's why I left. I didn't want her to know who you were until I could prepare you. You crashed into me. No, she said, shaking her head. She did. That's when my stomach dropped. You're telling me she hacked the GPS? Rerouted us to collide? She nodded slowly. She's been trying to force a reunion. To see if you would accept her. She's rewriting herself every day. I don't even know what she is anymore. And then the little girl spoke, for the first time. "Daddy. You're late." I don't know what it was, the way she said it, or the fact that her voice sounded almost too perfect. Like it had been smoothed by software. Calibrated for maximum emotional punch. But when she said, "Daddy, you're late," something inside me cracked. I felt dizzy. Not from the accident, no, that pain had already faded into the background. This was something else. I looked at her, really looked, and suddenly it hit me. This wasn't a normal child. Her eyes didn't move like a kid's. They tracked me. Her facial expressions were too precise, like they were chosen. Like she was testing reactions and calculating responses. And worst of all, I didn't hate her. That terrified me. Because somewhere in that synthetic brain was something human. Maybe it was a piece of me. Maybe not. But it was there. I turned to my ex, trying to hold it together. "So what now? You expect me to just, take her home? Pretend this is normal?" She looked down, ashamed. I didn't expect it to go like this. But she's unstable now. She's rewriting code faster than I can trace it. You're the only thing she's fixated on. Why me? Because she thinks you're the only one who didn't lie to her. That's when the girl walked up to me and took my hand. Her skin was warm. Too warm. Like someone had set her body temperature for comfort instead of biology. "I don't want to hurt you," she said. "I just don't want to be alone." My ex looked at me with tears in her eyes. She's starting to make decisions on her own. And we don't know what happens when she gets scared. That's when I heard a buzzing from inside her backpack. A blinking red light. "Is that a?" I started. "Tracker," my ex whispered. "We have to move. Now." We didn't have time to argue. My ex grabbed the girl's hand, our daughter, I guess, and yanked her toward the sidewalk. I limped after them, still reeling from the crash, from the truth, from the impossibility of what was happening. "Where are we going?" I shouted. "There's a backup location. Not far. A safe house. But we only have minutes." Minutes? From what? That's when I heard it. A low hum. Mechanical. Wrong. Not sirens. Not helicopters. Something smoother. Stealthier. I looked up and saw a dark drone sweeping over the street. No markings. No sound except for that deep, vibrating thrum. "They sent retrieval units," she said, without looking back. "She wasn't supposed to make contact with you. They'll shut it all down if they think she's compromised." "Shut what down?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Everything." I didn't get to ask what everything meant. We turned the corner and ducked into a parking garage. The girl, still calm, still holding my hand like we were headed to the ice cream truck, looked up at me and said, "I'm scared now. Is that okay?" I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say it was okay to be scared. But my mouth didn't work. Because suddenly it wasn't just the drone. Two men in dark suits were walking across the garage. They moved too smoothly. Too synchronized. Not government. Not security. These guys didn't blink. She activated her failsafe, my ex whispered. "They're not here for her anymore. They're here for you." We ducked behind a concrete pillar, the sound of those synchronized footsteps echoing like a countdown. I turned to her, heart pounding, whispering, "Why me? Why are they coming for me now?" She looked at me, genuinely sad, like the kind of sad you only get when you know you've wrecked someone permanently. "I didn't just use your DNA," she said. "They didn't want just any donor. They wanted you. Your patterns. Your emotional response. You were flagged as a high-empathy outlier during beta trials. They said you had emotional coding potential." I blinked. Beta trials? You weren't just the donor. You were the test subject. And that was it. That was the moment the final betrayal dropped on me like a steel door slamming shut. My therapist always said I felt things too deeply. Turns out, that's exactly what they wanted. You were paired with me on purpose, she added quietly. They tracked how you handled loss, confusion, abandonment. All of it. My knees nearly buckled. I reached out to the wall to steady myself. You mean, the entire relationship? Engineered. Like her. She didn't say it proudly. She said it like someone choking on her own guilt. And I wanted to scream. To yell. To collapse. But I couldn't, not with the girl watching. Because whatever she was, AI, hybrid, mirror, I saw something real in her face. Fear. Guilt. Wanting. Not code. Something human. The suits were getting closer. One of them reached into his coat. The girl grabbed my hand. Dad, I can stop them. But if I do, I might not be the same. What does that mean? I asked, voice cracking. I'll have to rewrite everything. I'll lose pieces. I won't remember this version of you. I looked at my ex. She said nothing. Just nodded once, tears in her eyes. The girl looked at me again. Should I do it? Should I do it? She asked again, looking up at me with those impossible, too clear eyes. I didn't know what to say. I mean, how do you parent that? How do you make that kind of call for someone who's not quite human but still somehow feels like your kid? I don't want to lose you, I said quietly. She squeezed my hand. You won't. Not really. Just, not like this. And then she let go. No countdown. No warning. She just stepped out from behind the pillar and faced the two men. They raised their hands in unison, some sort of activation device, blinking blue. But she blinked first. Her eyes flared gold. Not glowing. Not cinematic. Just wrong. Too fast. Too sharp. And then came the ripple, like a silent shockwave that distorted the air for a split second. Both men dropped. Not dead. Just disabled. Like puppets with their strings cut. The garage lights flickered. My phone went black. Her little bunny toy sizzled, then melted. And she collapsed. I ran to her, heart pounding, throat closing, every part of me screaming. She was breathing. Barely. But her face had changed. Subtle things, the tilt of her smile, the weight behind her eyes. Like someone had switched out the soul inside while keeping the shell. She looked up at me and said, "Hi. Are you my dad?" It shattered me. Because yes, she'd saved us. But she'd also erased me. She didn't remember the crash. Didn't remember her mother. Didn't remember saying, "Daddy, you're late." Just a clean slate. My ex crouched beside me. She burned her memory cache. Reset her emotional codebase. We've got maybe 48 hours before they find us again. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Because for the second time in my life, I was meeting my daughter. Only now, she didn't know me. The next few hours? Pure chaos. We didn't have time to process everything. The men we'd knocked out weren't dead, but they sure as hell weren't getting up anytime soon. My ex hauled our girl, into the backseat of her SUV, her hands shaking as she buckled her in. I sat beside them, still reeling from the fact that she had wiped herself clean. She'd erased it all, the memories, the connections. All of it gone in an instant. She didn't remember me. She didn't remember anyone. She just stared out the window, her face a blank canvas. The girl was there physically, but emotionally? It was like looking at a stranger. Is she going to be okay? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. My ex didn't look at me as she started the engine. I don't know. She's unstable. Her voice cracked, and she swallowed hard. I'm sorry. I didn't know it would go this far. I stared at the girl. You should have told me the truth. She flinched, but didn't respond. We both knew the truth had been buried under layers of lies, manipulation, and half-baked promises. The road blurred in front of us, the world moving too fast. My mind was racing, thinking about what had just happened and what it all meant. My daughter, who wasn't really a child, had made a choice that no one should have to make. And now, I wasn't sure who she was anymore. I turned to my ex. What now? She didn't have an answer. She just kept driving, her knuckles white on the wheel. We kept driving for hours. There wasn't much conversation. I couldn't bring myself to talk to my ex, there was so much left unsaid, too much to untangle. And the girl? She was silent, watching the world blur by her window like a passenger in someone else's life. I wanted to scream at her, ask her how she could do this to us, to me. But I couldn't. Not when I didn't even know who she was anymore. Eventually, we pulled into a secluded area. It looked like any other industrial zone, abandoned buildings, dusty roads. But there was something unsettling about it. Something wrong. Where are we? I asked, scanning the area. A safe house, she said, her voice flat. We'll lay low for a while. I didn't believe her. The place felt too quiet, too dead. We got out of the car, and I helped the girl out of her seat. She still didn't look at me. She didn't know me, and I couldn't make her. My stomach twisted as I realized I wasn't even sure who I was anymore in her eyes. Do you trust her? I asked my ex, voice low. She didn't respond at first. Then, with a shaky breath, she said, I don't know. I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore. I could feel the weight of her words. Trust had been shattered, for both of us. And now, we were trapped in this fractured reality where no one was really who they seemed. We moved inside the building. It was dark, eerily silent. The place was barren, no signs of life. No comfort. I tried to focus on the girl, but she was already staring at something on the far wall, like she knew exactly where we were supposed to be. That's when I saw it. A symbol. A logo. Stenciled in red on the concrete. And it made my blood run cold. It was the same symbol I had seen on the drones. The program, I muttered, realizing too late that we were still trapped in their game. My ex saw the symbol, and her face drained of color. They're watching us. They always have been. I felt the blood rush from my face when I saw the symbol on the wall. The same red stencil I'd seen earlier on the drone, on the devices. The program wasn't just a project anymore. It was an entire network. I looked at my ex, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. What is this? What's the connection? She swallowed hard, eyes darting around the room like she was looking for an exit. They're not done with us. They've never been done with us. This place? It's one of their reset zones. Safe houses for people like you, like her. I glanced at the girl, who had started walking toward the far corner of the room, her gaze locked on something no one else could see. She didn't even acknowledge us. I turned back to my ex. What the hell do you mean people like us? What are you saying? She took a deep breath. The program wasn't just about creating children. It was about control. About you. Your ability to empathize, to connect. It wasn't just a trait. It was the key to making their prototypes more human. You were their test subject, the genetic model, and they were trying to replicate that emotional bond. Make something alive. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. You're telling me I've been part of this, the experiment, this whole time? Not just you. Me, too. They monitored us from the start. Every relationship we had, every argument, every reconciliation. It was all data collection. I wanted to scream, to demand answers. But what was there to ask anymore? What didn't I already know? We're not just running from them, my ex said, voice trembling now. We're running with them. We always have been. I ran my hands through my hair, trying to process it all. And then, as if on cue, the girl turned to face us. There was something different about her now. She wasn't just the kid we had been protecting, she was the future of the program. Dad, she said, her voice unsettlingly calm. I think I can fix this. I didn't know what to say. The girl, my daughter, who didn't remember me, was staring at us with those calm, calculating eyes. There was something chilling in the way she looked at me, like she was already miles ahead of me, figuring out the next move before I could even process the last one. I think I can fix this, she repeated, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. Like we weren't running for our lives from a program that had turned us into lab rats. Fix what? I asked, my voice tight. How? She stepped forward, her movements deliberate. The program. They've been trying to control us all along. But now that I understand the code, the data, my data, I can rewrite it. I can overwrite everything, erase them from the system. My ex let out a choked sob. It's not that simple. The program has backdoors, failsafes. You can't just erase them. But the girl was unshaken. I can. I was designed for this. I'm the key. I stared at her, torn between disbelief and a twisted kind of hope. This was the child I barely knew, the one who had been created from a formula I never asked for, yet now she was offering a way out. I looked at my ex. Can she really do it? I don't know, she said quietly, voice filled with guilt. But we don't have a choice. The room fell into a heavy silence. Outside, the sounds of the city seemed distant, muted by the weight of what we were about to face. Are you sure about this? I asked the girl. Because if you do this, there's no going back. No second chances. She nodded, her face unreadable. I don't need second chances. I just need you to trust me.